Welcome to tonight's Family Engagement and Support Night at Urbandale Middle School. And tonight specifically, we're going to be talking about mitigation updates and building resilient adolescence and stress management from our partners here at Employee and Family Resources. And so I will dive in here, just give you a couple things here with regards to what you might need for the meeting tonight. There's a link there. You can use your QR code on your phone and you can scan that, or there is a link underneath there. Believe it or not, that's the shorter link there. That's a link to provide us some feedback to the school, but then also there's a link to this slideshow presentation there at the bottom that's a little bit easier in terms of that bit.ly link. So those would be a couple things you might need, or if you're watching this later, those would be items that you might access to be able to provide some additional support. So the purpose of this event and the series of events that we're doing are really to improve perception and experience of our families, and really to assess the extent to which families feel engaged in our schools and students' educational experience, and really improve the lived experience of our families here for their students, be accountable to you to enhance communication, and also to recognize and reward those things that we're doing well. So that's really the purpose of tonight's event. The agenda for tonight, just doing some welcome and introductions here. And then at a little after 5 o'clock here, we'll transition into sharing some mitigation highlights and updates. Previously, this was rescheduled from a couple weeks ago if we were to go back 100%. We know that's happening next Monday. So there'll be some broad strokes and overviews of that transition and what that looks like. Families will also be getting an email overnight tonight that will share some highlights that we're going to share with our students. So you'll see the same thing your student is going to receive. And then the bulk of our time tonight is with community partner Steve Arneson with Employee and Family Resources. And it will be having a presentation by Megan Witch, who will be sharing some information about building resilient adolescence and providing some stress management techniques. And then we'll close with a survey on what are some things we did well and what are some areas we can improve on to serve you better the next time. So just a few mitigation updates here. And these again are broad strokes. Really to the left of your screen there, you see the current hybrid model. And then to the right, you see what 100% 5 days a week looks like. And so the biggest area that you will notice a difference in is lunchtime. And so lunch typically has been in classrooms, or we've been at about a sixth of our capacity in the lunchroom. So we would have tables of 12 in our lunchroom, and we've had 2 students per table, both facing the same direction. In a 5-day-a-week model, we go from 2 per table to 6 per table. And so that'll be about a 50% capacity in the lunchroom. So that'll be the biggest change. And we will have assigned seats there. When students are not eating, we're going to be asking them to go ahead and have their masks on to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And assigned seats are necessary for contact tracing, as we may need to do that as well. In the current hybrid model, we have altered passing times. We encourage students to use their bags to limit their time in the hallways and in lockers. Social distancing in classrooms, masks are required, signage, separate entrances, and regular cleaning between periods. A lot of that is going to stay in place in our 100% 5-day-a-week model. We will continue the use of altered passing times. We will continue the use of regular cleaning and sanitizing. We'll emphasize to students when you're in the hallways, we have hand sanitizing stations mounted to the walls. Use those. Wash your hands in the restrooms. Good personal hygiene is going to be critical. Use of backpacks, masks, signage, and separate entrances will all still be things that occur. We will not be able to social distance students in classrooms, especially at a 6-foot distance. That's just not possible given the size of both class sizes in terms of the number of students, but also the physical size of our classrooms would not be possible. So social distancing will just not be something that can occur. Our class sizes, when everyone's here, is around 30. We do have some classes that are a little bit larger than that. So that's just not something we're going to be able to accommodate, unfortunately. And the emphasis, so all of that in place, the emphasis will still be trying to keep students safe, trying to attend to their social and emotional needs, and then attend to their academic needs. And it would be in that order. So our primary emphasis will continue to be safety, and how can we keep students safe and staff safe? How can we serve the social and emotional needs of our students and our staff here? And then how can we support your children to grow academically would be our priorities. There's a link there to some more detailed protocols for all of our families. If you so choose to click on that link as you have access to the slide deck, you can do that. And additionally, you'll get an email coming out that will have a video that is shared with the students. So you can emphasize and stress those items at home as well that we're going to be emphasizing here at school. The big thing will be mask wearing. We will continue to require masks, and we will support our students to remember to keep those above their nose. And so that will be the key element because there is no social distancing. If students are not wearing their mask properly, there is the greater potential for students to be on quarantine and be out of school. That also increases the likelihood that, unfortunately, we won't be able to maintain this live instruction as long as we would like to. So that's going to be a critical piece. So we would ask for your support with that. The next item, I'm thrilled to have partners here from Employee and Family Resources to provide some items regarding building resilient adolescents and stress management. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Megan Witch, who is the clinical supervisor at Employee and Family Resources, specifically the Student Assistance Program.
Thank you, Jeremy. Hello, everybody who is tuned in or who will be watching this at some point. I will preface, I'm going to be practicing some resilience in front of you tonight. I may have to step out to deal with a slight emergency in my home, but if I do, then Steve, my colleague, will step in. So I'm here to talk about how do we build resilience in our kids and our adolescents, and this is a time when every single skill that we've ever learned has been challenged. Okay, so please know you're not alone, and it's okay if you are struggling with this yourself. This is a really good, in my opinion, opportunity for us to kind of review EFR's top 10 tools, tips, tricks, techniques, whatever phrase or word you'd like to use to be able to do just that. So not only build resilience in our adolescents, but these are all reminders for us as adults and kids' worlds. So these are in no particular order, but I'll do my best to just follow along. So in case I do have to step out, then Steve knows where to pick up. So the first one we have listed here is to be mindful and to really stay present. A lot of us think about for 30 seconds, if you've ever been driving from work to home and you can't quite remember if you stopped at that last stop sign, or if you used your blinker when you were turning, or if you even took the same route that you normally do. So if you've ever been in a situation where you can say, oh yeah, I don't know if I stopped at that last stoplight. That is the exact definition of not being mindful. We get into this routine, we start going. And so really practicing mindfulness, it's an effort to really be present and to understand this is what's happening, this is where I'm at, and to also to be able to remind ourselves we're going to make it through. Okay. So kind of moving into that next section, setting healthy boundaries. I work a lot with families, educators who kind of question like, well, can I still set boundaries? We're, hybrid, and then we're full-time, and then we're virtual, and then I don't know what we are, and all of these different confusing things over the last year in particular. But setting healthy boundaries is something that helps keep us all stable. So I'm going to encourage you, please, please, please set healthy boundaries for you, for the kids in your life. Recognize this might not look like how you thought it was going to, or maybe how it did a year ago or 18 months ago. But keeping in mind, people grow. Boundaries should grow as well. So we want to be able to model for the youth that are in our lives, especially this middle school age, where kids are testing boundaries. Like that's what they're supposed to do. I know parents don't like it when I say that, but it's super true. So recognizing sometimes we're going to set a boundary. We're also going to have to evaluate, is this the most appropriate boundary? Is it right for our circumstances? And so we want to practice flexibility. We will be able to practice flexibility if we go back to number one and practice staying mindful. Again, being aware of what's going on, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and how this is all impacting me. Okay. Helping to create a routine based on our actual needs. Oftentimes we create a routine based on convenience and time and all the things that we want to get done in a day. I know I do. I had a routine set this morning, and I tell you what, my 4-year-old did not allow that routine to happen. So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. We're gonna have to review and see what's available. What do we need to do? So really assessing, and again, how we assess what's actually going on and what we really need to decipher it from what we want is back up to number one. Being mindful, being present. Am I really knowing what's going on around me? And then two, setting healthy boundaries again, because what I might need, maybe it conflicts with what I want, or it might conflict with something that somebody else wants. I know as parents, or not even just as parents, but parents, educators, adults that have kids in their lives, we're oftentimes pulled in a lot of different directions. We're trying to make decisions, and we're trying to support kids to learn how to make their own decisions. So sometimes we need to take a step back, practice that mindfulness, practice setting those healthy boundaries, and working to create a routine based on needs. I am going to have to send this over to Steve, unfortunately, not unfortunately for you guys, he's a great one, here in just a minute or two, but I want to talk about the next two for just a couple quick seconds, using screenless self-care. Kids are glued to their screens. Adults are glued to their screens. We need to be aware of that. I can tell you, I'm typically in front of my computer, specifically anywhere from 9 to 11 hours a day. The last thing I want to do is to pick up my cell phone and play a game. But it's almost always my first go-to until I pop back up to number one and I'm paying attention. Do I really need to look at another screen? I'm setting a healthy boundary, and then I'm creating a routine based on my need, which is to get away from a screen and to start using some really positive talk. It's okay if I'm not 100%. With that, I'm going to send it over to Steve. I will be back just as quickly as I can.
This could not be any more perfect, could it, Mr. Braden? We kind of knew this could happen. So I think what I'd like to do, and Jeremy, I don't want to take away Megan's content. So I think I would like to jump to the overview, if that's okay with you, and then we'll bounce back to the Megan's, and then I can piece through that. Megan and I work together closely. I'm the account manager for the Student Assistance Program, and she and I have partnered together. In fact, our first relationship started when I was a school counselor and I discovered the Student Assistance Program, and I literally had Megan coming into my school and working with my students. So I'm going to kind of highlight the Student Assistance Program and what is available for you, and I'm going to make reference to a flyer that's in the hands of the school counselors. Mr. Braden has it. It's kind of all over the place. Urbandale has had an employee assistance program for its employees for quite a while, and that might ring a bell with you as far as your employee assistance program through your work. And the student assistance program is kind of a branch, kind of a similar partnership that is available to everyone that is affiliated with an Urbandale school student. So it's called Student Assistance Program, and it is available to you. And some of the key components are kind of highlighted on that flyer right there. First and foremost, it is confidential. What I'm going to tell you about are resources that you can access, you can use, your student can use, that are only reported back to your district in numbers. So that's a quick overview, and it's free. It's no cost. The district has made a financial investment into the mental health care and needs of students and families of those students. And what I'm going to tell you about is 24/7 access. So this is available anytime of any minute of any day. First of all, there is a phone number that you can access, 244-6090. That is answered at any time in the day. I will also add, it's not on this flyer because it's so brand new, the using our website during the school hours and during a typical workday, there is actually chat capabilities. So it's not just a phone that needs to be a call that's made, but you could actually go to our website that's way down there at the very bottom of the flyer, efr.org, and actually use the chat capabilities. But we are prepared. We have a master's level clinician prepared to answer that phone call or engage in that chat communications just to see what's on your mind, help you process, kind of assess what's going on, and kind of help brainstorm what could be a solution. So this is not therapy. This is not a diagnosis is not required or necessary, but just if when things are pressing in. So be thinking of this for your student, because if your student is an 8th grader, they're going to hear about this during 9th grade health next year, because that's kind of my target age that I really push this out. But students can access this on their own. Be thinking about this for yourself. Be thinking about this in your communications with another parent or another parent about their child who might benefit from accessing these resources. So I told you a little bit about the phone consults, 24/7, 365. And if that is all you need at that point in time, that's fine. But what frequently happens is people want to engage in the in-person counseling. Now, in-person is a little bit of a misnomer right now because everything is being done virtually. But Urbandale Students Family, the SAP, allows for 6 individual sessions. If you were to call and ask to set up those appointments, a counselor would get back to you and make arrangements to have those sessions virtually using your device, kind of in the privacy of your own home or your own space. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it's being done that way. So I'll wrap up there. 244-6090. That flyer is available, and you can pretty much talk to any of the Urbandale School support staff that you are familiar with, the school counselors, the anybody in the offices. They have that available. So I see Megan's back. Megan, I just jumped and just did the overview, and I was totally prepared to jump back in, but are you good to go?
I sure hope so.
Thanks for practicing resilience right before our very eyes.
Well, we'll see how well I do. So I guess don't say thanks too quick. So ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate, again, your patience with this. I know I left off in somewhat of a rush speaking about the screenless self-care and then using positive talk. Screens are everywhere, right? So our kids are on screens all the time, especially if they're in any type of hybrid or 100% online model. If we're working from home or if our jobs take us in that direction. So really in focusing on some activities that we can give back to ourselves, we can start to recharge some of those batteries, but to do it without a screen specifically in our place or in front of our face, I think is incredibly powerful. A lot of times I'll hear from both students as well as adults, well, but what else is there? You know, I can just veg out on, you know, some Netflix show. Super true. I'm not going to stop you. I can veg out like the best of them. But if I go back to that very top, and you're going to hear me say this a couple different times, so it's probably going to get annoying. But if we go back to the top and we really check in with ourselves about how mindful we are, if I'm vegging out, I am vegging out, meaning whatever's happening in that show, I'm probably getting about 50% of it. It's for pure entertainment. I'm not really paying attention. So when we're talking about self-care, that's really the act of giving back to ourselves. We want to do that mindfully. We want to do it with purpose, because otherwise our batteries just don't quite charge in the same way. Using the positive self-talk or the positive talk doesn't have to be just directed to ourselves. Really trying to find something good in our day. I know there's a lot of not great. I'll be the first person to acknowledge that and to understand that with you. If we can find something good in a day, we win. Especially in the last year, especially with, you know, the transitions to and from school. For those of your students who maybe were transitioning into middle school, that was a rough one. And then think about your students that are transitioning out of middle school. That's an equally as rough one, if not maybe more. They haven't quite had the experience that any of us would really choose to give them, but they have an experience that is unique to them. And that's something to be recognized, to be acknowledged, and to be accepted, because it is here, it is what their experience is, and they can only really make the best of it or choose not to. Okay. This leads me into expressing gratitude. We hear gratitude in a lot of different areas. So sometimes we hear it in the school hallways. We might hear it for those of you who attend church or some type of spiritual gathering. Sometimes we talk about gratitude around certain holidays and just with our families. We've had a lot of opportunity to complain about a lot of stuff. I'm also really good at complaining. So when I say that this is one of our top 10 ways to build and foster resilience, I really mean it. Being able to express gratitude in sometimes even the worst of our situations, and sometimes the best, is really difficult to do. But when we can do it, again, we win. We win. We are winning that day, that time, that experience, that relationship, that life, that whatever. And I don't know about you, but when I was in middle school, like every stinking win counted. It didn't matter how small or how big it was, because those losses also count. And so every single win, doesn't matter how small, let's count those. Let's notch on the wall, whatever we have to do. Let's just be there and let's support that. Let's celebrate those because they're what we're going to look back on. This also leads into using a growth mindset. You hear this probably every day in your hallways, in your classrooms, talking to your teacher for parent-teacher conferences. Maybe when it first came out, however many years ago, you're like, what's that about? If we really think about it, setting a goal, when we get to that goal, if we achieve it, fantastic, great, milestone, love it, high fives, hugs, whatever, elbows, whatever the case is. But when you talk to somebody about how they achieved their goal, not just if they achieved their goal, we're really focusing on the process that somebody went through. We're focusing on all the small steps that you don't see because you're only tracking the final mark. Using a growth mindset, you're looking at you're taking those wins, those little tiny wins that don't seem like in the moment they're even something to amount up to. But when you look back on a day or a week or a month, you can see, oh my gosh, I've got 5 wins this week. That is awesome. Or I, went through a class period and I didn't get sent to the office. That's huge for some of our kids. And you guys know that just as well as I do, sometimes even more than I know that. So looking at the process that a student is going through, or that a youth in your life is going through, the biggest challenge I think to adults is to also recognize that we still need to grow. And we need to grow by, this is where I get annoying, right? By being mindful and staying present, by setting those boundaries, by helping create routine based on needs. Again, our tendency is, this is what I want. This is what I think I need. This is what my boss tells me I need. This is what my kid tells me I need, or my spouse, or my sibling, or my whatever. We have to be able to take that step back and really reflect on what's going on to figure out what it is that we do need. And so also looking at that connected to the growth mindset, where do we take our next step? I want to circle back to the idea of what we're talking about here. We're talking about building resiliency, and we're talking about fostering that with our kids, middle school aged kids. They don't know what this stuff is until we tell them. And I'm not saying our kids aren't intelligent. I'm saying they're middle schoolers. They don't know what this is until we teach them. And so it is our responsibility to teach the way that we do these things. Your kids are looking to you. So whether you're a parent, a coach, an educator, a mentor, an administrator, a school counselor, I don't care, dietary specialist, like whatever your role is with kids in your life, they're looking to you and they're paying attention. I promise you, way more than they will ever admit to at this stage. They'll be like 40 when they're like, hey, that one time you told me that I should maybe do this and I thought you were totally full of crap. Well, maybe it works, kind of thing. But using that growth mindset and learning, this is moving into the next one, learning what I can control and not control. Great example. My furnace stopped working today. Awesome. Perfect opportunity, like great opportunity to come and speak to you folks about what resiliency is. Had no intention of being interrupted in any way, shape, or form. And I am in no way, shape, or form doing this gracefully, which is also just like, know that this doesn't have to be graceful. It doesn't have to be without mistakes. It doesn't have to be without hiccups or scratches along the way. But know that you can also count on your support. I have Jeremy and I have Steve here who were kind enough and gracious enough not to say, Megan, just get out of the way. But you know, here we can help facilitate this. So a lot of that's out of my control, but being able to reach out to my peers and say, hey, I'm going to need some support with this, or I'm going to need help with this. Huge. Kids oftentimes will go to their peers because they think that they can rely on their peers, but oftentimes their peers are struggling with the same thing that they are. And so you have two people struggle city, trying to like help each other through that struggle. And sometimes they get some really bonehead ideas, right? Like, that's fine. I'm almost 40 and I get bonehead ideas with my friends when I come across something I've never dealt with before. But learning what I can and cannot control. And it's a true, like, yes, I can, no, I can't. There's no like middle ground when it comes to this. But yes, I can control this, or no, I can't. And then working towards accepting that. Acceptance is incredibly difficult. It's a difficult place to get to. But, and I bet you can't tell where I'm going with this, we can get there by practicing mindfulness, setting boundaries, creating routines on needs. Screenless self-care, that's probably a little bit more of a plug for our virtual world right now. But by doing these steps, these are all steps in that journey of getting to build resilience. You, as, again, the adults with these kids in your lives, you have to practice these. You have to model them. You don't have to be great at them, but you have to keep trying, because resiliency is about being able to bounce back. It's about being able to recover. It's about being somewhat elastic. And the thing is, all of those have limitations. We have to know what our adult limitations are so that we can teach these kids that they're going to have limitations too, and that that's okay. The next two are probably my favorite because they're difficult and they're not easy to accept. So creating the space to have difficult conversations and still be willing and able to highlight strengths. This is something that has been probably a theme that has come across in a variety of conversations with different educators I've met with through consultations, and then also different families that I've worked with through counseling and therapy services. When things get rough, we get a little scared. We, being adults, get a little scared at having some really difficult conversations. We start to kind of pull back a little bit. We might fluff our phrases a little bit more. We tend to approach problems or issues with a little bit more caution because we're afraid of rocking the boat. I get it. I understand it. I've been there a million times as an adult before. I'm coming to you as a counselor saying the boat is rocking. It's rocking. It's already rocking. You are not rocking the boat probably any more than any other thing that's going on in this kid's life. Now, with that said, you can still use tact and you can still use respect and you can still be calm when you do these. But creating a space to have the conversation. We get kids who come in through counseling and they say, well, I don't get in trouble anymore. And for them, it's like super cool until they're like, but I probably should be in trouble. And I don't know about you, but at 12 years old, I was not ever thinking, oh man, I should really be in trouble, but I'm not, because I was in trouble when I was supposed to be. So when I have kids coming to me or coming to our other counselors saying like, I'm not really held accountable to these things anymore, that's a flag for me saying, okay, I'm going to have to talk with the people in your life. And it's not about you did something wrong as an adult or, you're doing something wrong. What it is we just have to realize that kids need that structure. We as adults need that structure. And sometimes we pull back from having difficult conversations too. If you need somebody to give you permission, and I'm not saying that you do, but if you do, please have the difficult conversation, because life has not stopped for these kids, although they might say it has. Life has not stopped for you, although sometimes it feels like it has. Give yourself an opportunity to really create that space. Think about what you need in that situation to be able to create a space where you can approach a kid, whatever your role and relationship is, but to approach that person and honestly say like, this is an issue, this is a problem, this is something we need to talk about. Well, we can do it. It's not impossible, pandemic or not. I promise you, it is not impossible. And Steve provided some great information about some of our services. This is a selfless plug, I promise you, because whether you use EFR or you seek out services from somewhere else, please know we want to support you to get wherever it is that you need to go. Long and short, the conversations though need to happen. Kids are needing them to happen. You need them to happen. And we can highlight your strengths and we can highlight your kids' strengths too, but we still need to have those conversations. And that brings me to this last of the top 10 that we identified and really focus on. And that's understanding that two statements that kind of seem like they don't connect to each other, might almost seem like opposite statements, can be true at the same time. We have a tendency to kind of make excuses, or excuses might not be the right word, but we have a tendency to use the word but a lot. So I might say, well, I'm on a diet, but I've had 4 cheat days this week. Okay. I can still be on a diet, and instead I'm going to challenge you guys as adults to practice, to one, develop your statements, 2, to think about what statements your kids might create. And I'm going to challenge you, instead of using the word but, to replace it with and, because they're two honest, true statements. I may be on a diet, instead of using but, and I had 4 cheat days. Because if I go back up to that growth mindset, you know what? That 4 cheat days might be the best week I've had. And that's worth celebrating. I use diets because it's something that a lot of adults can just connect with. But there we go. And if you think about it though, personal example. So I'm practicing gratitude. It's not just like a New Year's resolution. It's something I've wanted to be better at or be more mindful of, and just know that I'm doing it for the right reasons. So of course I love organization, and I got all the sticky notes and all the journals and all the highlighters and the colored pens. I'm not sad about that, and I don't use them, because being able to express gratitude is not necessarily just to track it in a notebook. It's to practice it. So with that, I challenge you, create your statements as adults in this world, and create your statements around what you're trying to do and where you identify hiccups. Because this is, in a sense, creating the space to have a difficult conversation with yourself so that you can practice highlighting your own strengths. And once you feel good about that, and I encourage you to really put some effort into that, when you feel good about that, then you've created the space, because you've been mindful about how you're presenting the issues, and you can set the boundaries to have that conversation with your kid. You can help them create a routine that's based on need. You can help them create ideas for how they can take care of themselves without a screen, or without feeling like they have to be, virtually connected to their buddy playing the same video game. I don't have anything against video games. I suck at them. I'm so bad at them, but I love watching people play. So I get my joy from that. With that said, there are different ways that people can take care of themselves. So I just want to encourage you, review these top 10, come back and review this video again at a later date. If you have any questions, please, please, please do not hesitate in any way, shape, or form. My email is on the screen that had my name right there, mwich, MWICH @EFR.org. Please, 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 don't think that your question is not important. Don't think that your question is not necessary. If you have it, it is necessary, and it is supposed to happen. Shoot it to me. If you shoot me 7 different emails with 1 question each, that's fine. I promise you I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. Just know that we're here, and know that building resilience is hard work. And the fact that we're talking about building resilience with our kids is important enough. And we have to practice building resilience with ourselves, because we're the ones that are teaching how to do all of this. Okay. I wish I could see your faces.
Thank you, Megan. That was fantastic. I took some things from that for my own self as a father of 3 daughters, 7 and under. There's a lot that I can take from that as well, especially when I think about needs. Do they need to put the specific pair of shoes on I want them to put on, or do they just need to have shoes on? They don't need matching socks, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those great tips. And I especially appreciated how you continue to bring that back to mindfulness and staying present, because there are so many things out of our control. I think you really hit it out of the park there. So thank you, Megan, for sharing that information with our families and our students and our staff as well. Will have access to this. Steve, is there anything additional you wanted to hit on in the overview there before we wrap things up?
Nope. I think we timed it just about right, Jeremy. And I'll just add, I'm a father of 3, 25 and older. And it doesn't change. It goes all through life. So thank you, Megan, for making it important for us too. I feel like you really gave us some good pointers. That would be the only takeaway I would have. And once again, that flyer is out there. Jeremy's got it. The counselors have it. Use us. That's what we're here for. You know, life happens. We're here to help. Student Assistance Program, 244-6090. Hop on the email, or not the email, but on the website. Check it out there too. There's some cool recorded things there.
Thank you, Steve. Last thing here for tonight, before we turn things off here, is just really a thank you. There's a link there to some feedback and future topics that you can provide us. This was one of those topics that was identified by our previous surveys and by previous indicators, identifying the need to build resilient adolescents. And I appreciate, back to Steve's comment about Megan's presentation. And it really starts as us as adults modeling how we can be resilient. And we can be resilient and still struggle, knowing that if we're struggling to continue to be resilient, we're modeling those positive attributes as well. So again, another plug there. As Megan said, reach out to EFR Students Assistance Program. Follow us on social media. That's where you'll see upcoming events. But please take time to fill out the feedback and topic survey. Thank you very much.